books change your life? I say yes, especially in this age where we have to fight for attention and slower paces in life. Since I was very little, I always had books and notebooks. But today I narrowed it down to 8 notebooks that I want to share with you that I can say changes my life and actually help me enjoy life all the more. I'm Camilla, I'm a mama and a wife, and after doing a lot of homeschool research for my 2 little girls, I think it's no surprise that I ended up with the Charlotte Mason approach, more or less, where notebooks are fully embraced. So let me show you how I fully embrace my notebooks. Starting off with probably my most used notebook is my pocket notebook. It's important that it's the size of my pocket because it goes with me all the time, because this is where whenever I have an idea or whenever I have a thought or something I want to research or look up or keep in contact with someone, I first place it in here. So it's basically a rapid logging system. It's very messy. It's just to keep track of what's in my brain and to unload my mind onto paper so that everything does not stay in my current attention, but I can put it down here and I can go back to focusing on the task that I need to focus on. Some people call it a catch-all, some people a rapid log, maybe probably like a phone book as well, a modern phone book, or a brain dump notebook. But I found that keeping this small pocket notebook with me really helps me just to be more human and less machine, and embracing all the lovely limitations we have as humans, and not to know everything immediately or contact someone in that moment, or being constantly available, or relying too much on something like a digital device that is just so chaotic with a bunch of other things as well. This helps me focus so well. My next notebook is my process notebook. It's basically a place to keep my manuscripts, first drafts of whatever creative project I have, whatever I'm exploring, or whatever I need to figure out. If I'm doing a creative writing project, writing a video idea, or planning an imaginary event that hopefully works out someday. This is a place for creative freedom where I jot that down. I also include planning. It's not necessarily ideal, but I see planning as a first draft because my plans never turn out the way that they do. But yeah, this is where I keep rough drafts. It really helps me to see how I make progress and how certain ideas are developing. And that's also so needed so that it doesn't stay bubbling in my mind and I get distracted from my tasks at hand, the things that I do need to do. It's that playground. So many times things would start being in my pocket notebook and they would eventually make their way to my process book. But even things that start in my pocket notebook will be things that I want to research, read about, listen to, experience firsthand, maybe like a class, or just being out in nature. And then what I've experienced there goes to my narration notebook. I love this one because it's this treasure trove of mini essays, basically, a compendium of everything that I'm learning throughout my life. As you can see, also nature study is included in it, but it's topically based. Whatever I have learned, whatever podcast I have consumed, whatever book or essay I'm reading, I would basically rewrite what I have learned in this notebook as a way of understanding it and articulating it in my own words and in my own ways. Because they say if you can teach something, you have truly learned it and grasped it enough. So this is where I exercise my learning truly, so that I'm not just consuming passively, but that I'm also producing and living in the ideas, so to say. I've heard people call a book like this their curiosity notebook, which it is. It keeps everything that I have been fascinated about, and here in the index I can easily access the topics that I have developed thoughts about and I have articulated. This is a live index, I'm calling it, because I only fill in the index as I make an entry, and then I just write the page where I did that entry. This is a very scattered one, but I'm already laying out my new one, and it will be a lot neater. Like, here is how my new index will look like, and then I will just start writing, and this will be a very great treasure trove in the end. And what I also like to do with my narration notebooks is at the very, very end, so I start here on the last page, as I am reading things and taking note of things, and it sticks in my mind and I feel like I can and want to develop it a little bit further, or I want to review it in some way in the future, here in the back I write down potential narration prompts. So it's like, if I have time to come sit and write and I'm not necessarily sure what to write about, I have topics already prepared that I know I have read about, that I can choose one of these and refresh the topic in my mind and see how it comes out when I start to write about it again. So this will be all in my own words, the narration notebook. But then I have the Commonplace notebook as well. So this will be direct quotes of authors, something that's just brilliantly articulated, or I just love the poetic sound of it, or they just capture the idea brilliantly. This is where I store the ideas of others, of masters, and these are all their words. And what I do, I just roughly categorize them according to topics. A lot of times I will single out an entire page for that topic. Other times I just keep it free. It's very imperfect, but as long as there is some sort of labeling structure and a living index, I can just, wherever this topic appears in the notebook, I just jot down the page in the index here. So this becomes a lovely treasury of words of wisdom. And in the beginning of the Commonplace book, I kept track of books that I have read. Now, this notebook is a very fun one. This I got from the idea from Autumn Kern in the Commonplace, based on the idea of Emma M. Lyon, that lovely book, where Emma retells moments in her life in a very humoristic way, a very fun and romanticized way. So this is basically memories in my life where I retell a moment in my life with the same lens as this Emma character in this book, because it's her journal entries. So this is kind of my journal entries with the same lens that Emma has on her life. So it's very fun to read these again. It's very fun to write them. I always stand up after this writing session feeling very uplifted and grateful for my life, and that I can enjoy my life. As opposed to, you know, when you're a teenager and I used to journal a lot as a teenager, but those things feel so cringe, you cannot reread them. You are victimizing yourself so much, and it's just doing nobody any good to read that. But this becomes a fun read for anyone that reads it, and I would highly encourage this for anyone. You really start to see with fresh eyes your own life, no matter how mundane it is. Next, I have my media log. Another great tool to keep this digital consumption trap intact. Basically, what I do is I lay out a media menu for every week with goals. Like, here are things that I want to consume, to read, to listen to, videos, podcasts, books, and I write down what my goals are for that. And then next to it, I actually log every single time that I watch a video, listen to a podcast, read something from a book. I log it beforehand as a way of consuming very consciously and not just falling into the trap of any algorithm or suggested things. And then I will compare. I will mark whenever I am reading something that is related to my goals, but I will also log things that is not in my goals, where I have overconsumed. It's good to see this very objectively at the end of the week and then make adjustments based on that the next week. It just adds a little bit of friction as well to just endless scrolling or falling for all the clickbait. A very modern thing, a modern tool modern people need to, again, to be more human, because we are the first generation that will so much information and memories from other people's lives more than our own. So this is just a way to really essentially be more human and enjoy your own life more than other people's lives. Speaking of enjoying my life and my responsibilities and the vocation that I have, this next one is my mother's journal. So what the mother journal is very inspired by Charlotte Mason, or Mother's Diary. In here is where I say monthly reflect on the ways that I am towards my children and how I can be the best mother for them, ways in which I am lacking, ways that I'm very grateful for, but also keeping tabs on my children, each one. They get their own entry where I write something about them. I won't share too much, but where I share their current interests, to be aware of that and to lean into that, to write down some of their strengths, to write down some of their weaknesses, and to write down plans and ideas on how I can partner with them and help them. And also, like my Commonplace notebook, where I keep quotes from masters, in my mother's diary I keep quotes of my children as well. Detailed memories to remember and cherish this mothering component of my life. And last but not least, we have my Contemplatio. If all the other books were very practical, this one gets very mental. This is for that deep thinking, for contemplating, for philosophizing, if that's a word, with myself, and for writing prayers. And I think everyone needs that. It's really a way to discover what you think, what you believe. Do you give yourself enough time to actually sit and contemplate deep things? If you also keep your prayers in here, it's such a nice way to become aware of what you're actually sharing with the Lord. Sometimes to me it feels like things are in my heart and he knows what's in my heart, so I ask. Asking does have that great intimacy, and putting it in here allows you to also get very intentional with actually asking and making requests, but then also to see when those requests have been answered, and that makes it so special. So this was an overview of all the notebooks that I currently have. I don't use all of them every single day, except for the pocket one. This one is an everyday little guy. Sometimes I try to think back to history and realize that they didn't have paper this easily. They didn't have notebooks or things to write with, and not everyone could read and write. And here we are, we have these tools. And I think it's such a grace, because in this age where we are probably the most overloaded generation in history, we can make use of this grace. Even though the world pushes us to become more machine-like, we can stay human, which is good, and which is how we were created to be. So I hope that that gave you just new motivation and ideas for what to do with your notebooks and how to use them. Here on this channel is where I share some of the discoveries that I keep in my notebooks. Things like, what does it mean to mother well? And why are there so many churches if we all use one Bible? And how can we improve our home economy? So join me as we discover and share all these wonderful things we find.